Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving my initial impressions of Maxx the Hype Nitro, kind of talk about some general thoughts and takes I have on the hero, maybe some better ways that you maybe can approach him, or at least just kind of get you synced up with what my thoughts are, and hopefully it might help you in your initial deck building process. And yeah, we'll get right into it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Feel free to check out my other videos. I do Flesh and Blood content mainly, as well as Alpha Clash content. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Everyone, feel free to check out the Patreon Discord down below. Our Discord has been bumping this week with the Bright Lights release. We have over, as I'm looking at right now, 406 members in the channel. We've stayed just above 400 for a while, so I'd love to get some new faces in the community. But yeah, feel free to check it out. So for anyone that's not aware, Maxx the Hype Nitro, if I open up the card here, is once per turn action, pay 2 resources, create a hyperdriver token with 2 steam counters, activate this ability only if you've boosted this turn. Hyperdrivers you control get crank. As it enters the arena, you may remove a steam counter from it. If you do, gain an action point. So you're able to, since this action inherently doesn't have go again, you can crank it to make it go again if you needed to do something else that turn. So I have a couple thoughts about Maxx, and this video won't be super long, but I'm going to try to talk almost like I would on stream. I'm going to try to elongate a little bit and kind of really break it down. So I have 3 basic things here that I want to talk about. One is why play this over Boost Dash, at least what my initial thoughts are. The other one is the helmet. We're going to talk about this helmet piece because this has a lot of discussion. And the third thing is cost curve. So obviously, these are just initial takes. This is for fun. If you disagree, that's fine. Let me know in the comments what you think. But don't crucify me because it's like, oh, all the cards haven't been revealed yet. True. This is just fun theory crafting. And we'll do a version 2 of this and a version 3 of this because I definitely see myself playing Maxx and trying to figure out this hero. Maxx is very interesting. Definitely an aggro-based hero, it seems, at least initially. And one that can be taken a lot of different ways. You can run this hero just straight into the ground, boost, go crazy, have a lot of good chain enders with Maxx V and Moonshot. You can run the Mechanoid version, being able to make hyperdrivers very quickly, both with his ability and ones from the field and from your hand, and be able to play Mechanoid very, very fast. Or you could run like a hybrid, right? People are still trying to see how he's going to go. When I first saw this hero, I thought of... and this is the initial list I've made and kind of talk about here in a second, not in depth, just kind of breeze it, is why do you play Maxx over Boost Dash? That was my first question that I asked myself because Boost Dash and Maxx kind of have a similar play style. They're wanting to smack you in the face, play a really big chain ender like Max Velocity or something like that, maximum velocity. And now Maxx has access to Moonshot, which technically Dash does, but it'd be way harder for her to get off and wouldn't be as viable. But why do you play this over Boost Dash? Because Boost Dash starts the game with Tecla Pounder, or can, right, which is +6 value. Boost Dash also has access to Induction Chamber and can go a little bit different if she wants, but really starting with Tecla Pounder. So what can Maxx give that outweighs the +6 from Tecla Pounder, potentially +12 if they somehow get another Tecla Pounder on the field with Spark of Genius? So, what is that? The first and obvious answer is access to ramp of resources, right? Because, let's say you start turn 1 and you just do a simple line of Crankshaft. You pitch a blue, play Crankshaft, boost it. You have 1 resource floating when you boost, and then you gain, or you don't gain anything. Then you activate Maxx's ability with your last card, or one of your last cards in, put a hyperdriver on the field, end your turn, right? Then next turn, you now have a +1 resource pool with the first time you boost. By turn 3, you're going to have +2 resources pretty much every turn. Me and my friend Morty were talking, and obviously testing is going to confirm or deny this, but it seems to me like by turn 3, once turn 3 starts, most of the time, unless someone has a way to destroy your items, or B, you destroy them yourself through whatever means, you're always going to have a +2 resource curve from turn 3 on, because you're going to have 2 hyperdrivers on the field, and one's going to be popping as another one comes in the field, and you're just constantly going to have 2, which means you're going to be +2 resource curve, right? So that's one thing that's nice about Maxx V or Maxx the Hype Nitro that Dash does not have access to, right? Dash doesn't have access to that, so naturally Dash has to run lower to the ground attack. So because you have access to these rampant resources, it means a couple things. One, you can play the chain enders a lot easier. Cards like Maximum Velocity can be played very easily, right? Because you're always going to have access to the 2 resources, right? Like you can honestly, let's say you have 2 hyperdrivers on the field, and they both have a counter on them. You're able to play something like any 0 cost, right? You could play a T-Bone, right, for 3 go again, giving you 2 resources from both hyperdrivers, right? And you have, let's say you have Maxx V in Arsenal, you have 3 cards left. You have 2 more resources to play with, right? So you could then play a Jumpstart at 2 cost for free, right? Or it's going to be 1 because you can play a Crankshaft because you got those 2 resources. You eat up both of them by playing Crankshaft for 5. You're back down to 0 resources. You play another 0 cost, or you play an Underloop that's a 1 cost, pitching your blue. So that's a good thing. Now that I have this organized, let's say you have a 0 to 60, an Underloop, a 2 cost, any 2 cost, and a blue. You're with 2 hyperdrivers on the field, and then you have Maximum Velocity and Arsenal. You're able to play the 0 to 60, gain 2 resources, play your 2 cost for free, play your 1 cost, pitching a blue with 2 floating, and then play Maxx V. You don't have to activate Tekla Foundry Heart, none of that, right? So you can literally have a 2 cost, a 1 cost, and a 0 cost attack in your hand and still have resources floating enough to play Maximum Velocity, right? And that turn right there is 3, 7, let's just say a 2 for 5 is 12, 22 damage off a 5-card hand. And you didn't have to activate Tekla Foundry Heart at all, right? And that's just a random line I just thought of, off the top of my head. So you have easier time playing Maximum Velocity because I haven't played a ton of Dash, but I know enough to know that Maximum Velocity, you have to like kind of hold it in Arsenal and hope that you can survive long enough to craft a turn that allows you to play it, right? Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think, at least from face value, this deck is going to be a lot easier to get this off. You also have access to Moonshot, right? Which is play this only if you've boosted this turn. As an additional cost to play this, destroy X hyperdrivers you control. When this attacks, it gets +3 for each hyperdriver destroyed this way. If it has 10 or more, it gets overpowered. So you either can pitch 2, right, to destroy 1 hyperdriver. You can pitch 4 to destroy 2 hyperdrivers, or you pitch 2 blues and you destroy all 3 and it's 12. So this is essentially a 6 for 12 with overpower, or a 4 for 9, or a 2 for 6, right? Pretty much. So most time you're going to want to play this at minimum 3 for 9. But the thing with Moonshot that I like a lot is it's going to be easier to play this. You can't play this in Dash. There's no way you can get hyperdrivers out and then have the resources right. It'd just be too clunky. But in this deck, like, on turn 3, you can play a 3 for 9 Moonshot easy, right? Being able to, make a hyperdriver turn 1, make a hyperdriver turn 2, your first hyperdriver goes down to 1 click, and then being able to, make another hyperdriver turn 3, and then you destroy 2 of them, right? Like, it's gonna by turn 3, depending on how you boost and when you boost, maybe you take 1 turn off boosting, you're gonna be able to play this as a 3 for 9. So I think that if you're trying to answer the question of why do you play this over Boost Dash, I think you're going to have access to Maximum Velocity and Moonshot and be able to play more chain enders consistently. Now, the question is it consistent enough to get over the +6 value that you get from Tekla Pounder? That's the question you have to ask, right? And I don't know that quite yet. But what you also get access to is you're able to play these buffs that make a lot more sense, a lot easier, right? Like Gas Up saying next attack you boost its turn gets +4, you can put a hyperdriver from your banished zone into the arena. So if you boost away a hyperdriver, you still can get more resources, right? It doesn't really make much sense to run these in Dash, but you can run them in Maxx a lot easier because you're going to have hyperdrivers on the field. Or Recharge, it says put a steam counter on a hyperdriver you control. The next attack you boost gets +4, right? So you're able to have some really crazy turns. Being able to play this off of even off just a yellow, right? If you pitch a 0 to 60, play in Recharge, and then you play a 0 cost, right? Like red 0 to 60, all of a sudden your red 0 to 60 is a 0 for 8. You still have 2 floating, and then you can activate Maxx, right? And you can also put a steam counter on a current hyperdriver you control. There's just a lot of cool, unique synergies that I think allow this deck to maybe even be a little bit more consistent than Boost Dash. What Boost Dash has access to is the +6. So you have to really, ask yourself, is it more? So that's my initial thoughts on like why you'd play this over Boost Dash is access to ramp resources that then allows you to play stuff like Maxx V and Moonshot a lot easier, which then, can make up for the -6 value you don't have from Tekla Pounder, right? It also allows you to play mech a lot easier. That's like the other thing. Being able to play Nitro Mechanoid is going to be a lot easier in Maxx because it's going to be just flat out easier to get the 3 hyperdrivers, right? All you got to do is basically, because you almost always have 2 hyperdrivers on the field after turn 3, all you got to do is find a way to get this last hyperdriver on the field, whether from hand, whether putting it onto the field through gas up, things of that nature. So as a good segue, though, the second thing is this helmet. This helmet is so interesting, and I can't wait to see the full card pool because there's got to be another reason to play this helmet other than like just in general. So this helmet says whenever you banish a hyperdriver from boosting, put it under this. Once per turn, when a hyperdriver is put under this, if there are 3 or more hyperdrivers under this, draw a card. Right? So initially my thought was you play this in Mechanoid builds, right? Because everything that's under this will go under your mech. So if you have 3 hyperdrivers under this, then 3 hyperdrivers will go under your mech on top of the 3 hyperdrivers that you need to have on the field. So 6 hyperdrivers will go under your mech, plus your 4 equipment, plus your weapon, right? So you have 11 charges on your Nitro Mechanoid, potentially, right? Or more, which is pretty nuts. The issue with this is it doesn't synergize well with cards like Gas Up to allow you to bring hyperdrivers back onto the field. It doesn't synergize with other cards like Hyper Scrapper if you want to use that, being able to banish hyperdrivers from your graveyard, things of that nature. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see like where this is used. I don't think this can be used in an aggro build because in a straight aggro build, you're going to probably want to run red hyperdrivers and you're going to find ways to bring them back with Gas Up, which is probably like the main way, right, to bring them to get them. So if you are running this helmet, then Gas Up does nothing because every time you boost away a hyperdriver, it's going to be eaten by your helmet. And the thing is, the token hyperdrivers you make don't go into your graveyard. They're ephemeral, right? Like Crouching Tigers, they just leave. So finding a way to use this helmet the best you can is going to be the most interesting thing. Maybe you just don't care about Gas Up in hyperdriver recursion, and if that's the case, then just run the helmet, right? Because you don't care if you just eat that, right? It's just a draw mechanic eventually. But then is your deck really the most it could be when it comes to moonshot turns and stuff like that? So it's going to be really interesting to see how the helmet works. It doesn't synergize with the recursion pieces, but it does, and it also doesn't allow you to do certain things like Hyper Scrapper, right? This is a really cool card, right? As an additional cost to play this, banish X items from your graveyard. When this attacks, it gets plus X. If there are 3 or more hyperdrivers or banish this, gain 6 resources. This gets go again. I can already think of the line now where you could just even play this first. You could pitch this. Let's say you have 3 hyperdrivers in your graveyard. You're able to pitch a blue to banish 3 hyperdrivers from your graveyard. Let's say you have 2 on the field just from Max's ability, and the 3 that you banished were these 3 that are in deck. You can pitch a blue, play this, gets plus 3, gains go again, gains 6 resources, right? It's a 3 for 5 go again. Then you use those 6 resources to then play Moonshot, with destroying the hyperdrivers you already have on the field, and then hit them for 9 or 12. So off of 1 blue, you attack for somewhere around 14 to 12 plus 17 damage. Like a 3 card. This could literally be a 3 card 17, right? Because you're able to pitch the blue, play this. It comes in for 3 for 5 go again, and then with the go again, you get the boost first. So you have to play a card before this. So yeah, you play a 0 for whatever. Then you pitch a blue, play this, right? You have 1 card in hand left, which is your Moonshot, and then you play your Moonshot. So yeah, you could do a 4 card 20 plus damage turn with very little setup other than just making sure hyperdrivers are in your grave. Yes, it's a Christmas line, but like I want to have access to be able to do this late game, right, and finish off an opponent. And if you can do that, you can do that, right? So that's another thought with the helmet. The last thing is cost curve. I wanted to keep this in mind, so I'm on 15 blues right now, just for fun. Again, this is all early goings with this deck. This deck doesn't mean much. We get it, but Maxx allows you to have a greedier cost curve, right? Because in Maxx, by turn 3, like we said, you're gonna have 2 resources every turn for the most part, 1 to 2 resources, maybe more. So you don't have to run as much blues, right? Because you're able to have a greedier cost curve. You're able to, with 2 hyperdrivers on the field, you're able to play a 0 cost boost and then play a 2 cost for free, right? Because you're going to gain 2 resources. So it allows you to run more reds, have a greedier cost curve. I still think there are some blues that are very useful, like Hyper Scrapper. Big Bertha is really good because it'll help put steam counters on your hyperdriver. It gets boosted away. Things like that. Crankshaft's really good for that. So I do think there are some utility blues. Like I think the 3 blues you run no matter what are Crankshaft, Big Bertha, and Hyper Scrapper. But you could run as little as like 9 to, I think 12 blues in this deck, personally. It also allows you to run more 2 costs just because you're going to gain resources, right, to do that. Even just pitching a yellow for a 1 cost boost attack, you're going to go down to 1, and then you're going to gain 1 from the 1 hyperdriver you have, and then you can play Crankshaft. So off of a yellow, you can play 3 resources worth of cards, right? So it seems really good for that. Again, 0 cost cards are premium because they're going to allow you with 2 drivers to be able to play 2 costs for free. And again, the best time to have your blues is your moonshot turn. That's your biggest thing. So again, all this is early goings, kind of fun, like scatterbrain stuff, but I would love to get your thoughts on it in the community. I'm super excited to build Maxx. This is the hero I'm going to be testing and playing with. I think early on because it's really interesting what you can do with it. This is my original list. I'll link it down below. It's literally a placeholder list, right? As we get more cards, I'll be chopping and changing things out. You'll probably see this list change a little bit. I'll update this particular list for you all so you all at least have a starting point. But this is where I just thought, based off the stream and talking to my buddy Morty, this is the list I ended up on initially, just to kind of, once the cards are all uploaded in the Talishar and TTS, be able to test it. So but yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. If you disagree with some of the stuff I said, please tell me down below. I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on it. Everything's just for fun right now. Nothing too crazy. We're just going through it. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see y'all next time on TC Talk. Thank y'all so much.